Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Mobile, Alabama. Parade first team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
I'm tired.
Listen, hey. We got to power through, baby. We got 2 days of this. I'm going to be here till probably midnight tonight because I just made the decision now that I'm a expert, PhD level beach shark fisherman. Yes, that's right. Go back and listen to the last episode. I can tell you anything you want to know about catching a shark off the beach in the Gulf of Mexico.
Other than the fact that you didn't actually catch one.
Well, I'm catching one tonight, though.
Okay. All right.
So last night, for those of you that didn't hear it, I've turned into an expert beach shark fisherman, and I will be selling my agency and stop doing this podcast because I'm going to be beach fishing for sharks all the time.
I could see you being one of these charter guys.
Oh, yeah. Now, I do have, it is a little bit like fishing with dynamite, guys, because right now in the Gulf of Mexico, there are 5 billion sharks right off the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. Anyway, guys, we got the episode that you have to hear today, Hanley's Hot Takes. And before we start, though, Bradley, I've got a message to all our podcast listeners, and then we're going to bring the man, the myth, and the legend onto this podcast. Dear podcast, this is my open letter to all of our podcast listeners. Rand, where's my camera? Oh, yeah, there it is. There it is. Dear podcast listeners, pause for effect. I understand that some of you want to call me, write me, get in touch with one of my agency offices, and then lie to me and tell me you want a quote, and then when they put you on the phone with me, start the whole, I can't believe you answered your phone. I can't believe I'm talking to you. Listen, guys, listen to me, okay? I realize some of y'all are in tough situations. I realize that now is not the best time in the world to be starting an insurance agency. I realize that you hear me on this podcast do this every day, all day, and I am juiced up, ready to go, and you're like, man, I really like that guy. He sounds like he's the real deal. I get all that. A couple things I need you to know. First of all, I'll be happy to talk to you about coming to work for I Protect Insurance. 2 things. Number 1, if you're an account manager, I have enough account managers. I could start an entire VA firm of account managers right now. If you're an account manager, please don't call me. Don't write me. Don't email me. Don't try to get in touch with me. I don't need any more account managers. I'm good. Now, Bradley, on the other hand, probably wants to talk to you. Now, if you think you want to sell insurance for I Protect Insurance, there are 2 things that you have to sell insurance. Number 1, you have to have the willingness to sell insurance. Number one. Number 2, you have to have the desire to sell insurance. Now, I realize all of you think that you can do that, and I realize that you think you're going to be the greatest salesperson that Scott has ever hired. Here's what I will not do. I am not going to talk to you very long if you say to me, Scott, here's what I want to do. I want to sell for I Protect because you've got all the markets. Now, here's what I want you to do, Scott, for me. I want to make all the money, and Scott, I want you to service all the policies for free.
Did you have that happen?
No comment, because he's going to hear this. But yeah, that can't happen. No, there's 2 things I'm not running. I'm not running the American Red Cross, and I'm not running a soup kitchen, and I'm not running a homeless shelter, and I'm not running, what is another nonprofit that everybody knows?
Ronald McDonald House.
I'm not running the Ronald McDonald House. Guys, if you are truly a standout, if you are a stud, if you are a parade first team All-American, and you're being treated like shit by your agency owner who doesn't appreciate you, but you can sell insurance. And by the way, let me include this. And also, you have a track record that you can show me that you can sell insurance, personal lines or commercial. If you have a niche, I will be happy to talk to you. We'll fly you down to Huntsville. You can move. You can get away from the situation you're in now, move down to Huntsville, You can sell insurance, and I'll pay you If you're good at what you do, I'll pay you more money than a show dog can jump over. But don't call me wanting for you to make all the commissions and Scott to do all the work. And then, oh, by the way, I can't sell shit because I've never sold anything in the insurance industry. And I don't like to make cold calls, and I don't like to reach out to people. And, oh, by the way, I don't even want to go outside the office. I'm really an introvert that wants to stay in my parents' basement and play Dungeons and Dragons. That's really what I want to do. If that's you, don't call. All right, I'm done.
Can I tell a story of something that I did that was really petty?
Please, before you do, can I bring our guest on?
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, brother from another mother, one of the greatest human beings alive on this planet. It is today time for Hanley's Hot Takes. Ryan Hanley. How are you doing, Ryan?
Hey, great. And I want to get to Bradley's story. Two quick comments. One is for everyone listening out there. Could you imagine you buy a charter fishing boat experience, like you're on vacation and you're like, hey, I've always wanted to go ocean fishing. Let's go. And
Happens
you
every
buy
day.
this charter boat and you show up and Scott Howell, charter boat fishing captain, comes down and this is the guy taking you out into the Gulf.
I'll give you a little flavor on that, Ryan.
Boat name change order.
I get in his minivan last year to go to lunch, and he turns on music and pulls out a microphone and a harmonica.
I did do that.
In a bejeweled, bedazzled microphone.
Yes.
So that's sort of that's
Amazon
just a little witness
that's
sampler
phenomenal.
of what
That
the
is
charter
phenomenal.
boat
I mean,
would be
just
like.
think about that experience. What a life experience. You may be missing your calling. Give up all this insurance nonsense and just go be a charter fishing boat captain.
Entertain
I just
people.
said that on the last podcast.
Yeah. Oh, that what a calling you may have missed there. My other comment is you said now is a bad time to start an agency. And I'm very, I don't know, we can get into this after Bradley's story, but I would love to make that our first topic of conversation because I slightly disagree with that take. So I'm gonna pin that. Let's get to Brad's story and then we can come back to that question.
My story sort of
but it's a
involves
pleasure
that.
to be here and I love you guys. You're the best.
Thank you.
So we got a lead last week, and it got assigned to one of my producers, and the producer called the person. They didn't respond, and we got a text from them, and the person said, hey, I apologize. I'm actually starting an insurance agency, and I was poking around on your website, so I thought I would submit a fake lead to see what happened. And while that flatters me,
Sure.
I posted in Insurance Soup, and I was like, guys, don't do this. Like, and it happens once a month. I'll either get an insurance agent submit a fake lead, or I will get a vendor trying to set up an appointment with me, which there is no way to assure that I'm never going to do business with your company again than if you waste my producer's time. And that's basically what I said. I was like, guys, like, I appreciate this, but don't do this because I've got automations that are firing off. I've got, texts that I'm having to pay 10 cents a text for. And the worst part is I've got a producer who is wasting their time and mine payroll dollars, and they get skipped in the round robin rotation. So in order for me to fix that, I have to go back and undo the automation, do it again. So they're the next one in line, which risks the automation. It just causes all kind of issues. So I basically like, hey, don't do this. And CJ's talked about this a little bit too. Like 10 minutes later, I get another fake lead for the name Billy Bob. And I was like, this is an insurance agent that saw that post being a smart ass. So I go on the back end of the website. By the way, don't know if you guys know this. If you submit your information online, the receiver of that information has your IP address.
That's right.
So I get the IP address. I look that up on Google. It gives me an address.
San Antonio, Texas.
I put the address on. It wasn't San Antonio, but it was Texas. I put the address in the GPS, and it's like pinpointed
Oh, boy.
an insurance agency.
Oh, boy.
So you know what I did?
Can you say it was?
I don't remember the name. I submitted a fake lead.
I thought it was somebody we might know.
I submitted a fake lead on their website for the name Billy Bob. Anyway, that was my petty story. I did.
So, Ryan, I love it. I think this is where you and I may have a difference. I don't think we have a difference of opinion, but when I say this, I think you're going to be like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. I will admit, if you are a commercial oriented, or let's say you want to sell commercial insurance, maybe you're coming from another industry and you don't, let's say we're just going to push home and auto insurance aside and we are focused on either a niche or small commercial or that, we decided from the jump, that's our jam, and we're going to do that. Start all the insurance agencies you want. You still got a lot of opportunity there. Where I say not the best time to start one is these carriers for homeowners insurance, at least the ones that I Protect Insurance represents, they don't even want to write insurance with us, and we have a damn contract with you. What makes you think they want to appoint another new agent? And by the way, in a lot of cases, that agent that we're talking about is coming from, I don't know, car sales or something. They've never sold an insurance policy. The opportunity there, I think, to start an agency in today's environment would be wrapping your head around, I'm going to do commercial. That's what I'm going to do. I don't even want to write homeowners or personal lines. Go for it. Have at it. If it's the other way, it's going to be tough sledding. Agree or disagree?
Completely agree.
Yeah.
I think, and this is my take on this, and we've actually talked on the show, whether it was the last episode or one of my previous visits on the show. The days of being able to think like an insurance agent are over. Mm-hmm. You do not get to say, I like personal lines better, so that's what I'm going to write. Now is when business owners, people who are entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial mindsets, this is where these are the people that are winning, because I'm sure you guys, just like me, like I know a lot of people are hurting, and I get it. And I have good friends who are like, we're, under a deluge of this, and I completely understand that. And I'm not discounting that pain or frustration in any regard. Please, everyone understand that. But for years, you guys, myself, Jason Cass, Carruthers, so many people have been preaching, we have to change our mindset from insurance agents to business owners. Even if you're a producer, think of your book like your business and start going, okay, I've written excavation contractors my entire career, but right now in my state, I can't get any through underwriting. Okay, instead of sitting there and complaining, what's a tangential line of business that you can write? Is there a product into that space that you can sell, like cyber or EPLI or something like that? Have you, what's your familiarity with commercial auto? Maybe commercial auto can hit in your state, whatever. Like, we have to start thinking these moments where things are really difficult is when the biggest moves happen between companies. What's happening right now is not that agencies are going out of business. Agencies are struggling. But what you're seeing is margin. You're seeing the agencies that have thought as business owners, that have built resilience into their business, adaptability, that have technology, they can turn on a dime. They can add a new line. They can easily bring in a producer. They can go after a new class of business in a relatively easy manner. And the agencies who've just been plodding along saying, this is the way we've always done it. We don't need to change. We get our 2 or 3% percentage points in growth every year. Everyone's happy. Everyone's paid. Those agencies are the ones that are feeling the most pain right now, right? That can't onboard a VA in 3 weeks and have them take on some of the stuff because they don't have SOPs in place. Like, and I'm not trying to bang anyone over the head with this, like, shame on you for not doing this. But maybe now is the wake-up call to say, hey, maybe you are a little slow in new business. Put some SOPs in place. Right? Go put some systems and process in place so you can bring in new people. You can bring in a VA. Go take that extra time and look for an automation tool or a piece of technology that can help, because this is not going to be the last time that we feel pain. If anything that I'm seeing in the economy right now and in our society as a whole is that I don't want to call this a black swan event, because I don't think it is. I think it had been building for a while, but these types of really painful moments are most likely going to become maybe not more severe, but certainly more frequent in the next 5 to 10 years. And taking these moments as good lesson points to start to recalibrate ourselves as true businesses and not just insurance agencies is hopefully like the silver lining to this really tough moment.
Right. Well, it's interesting too. I told somebody, and I've said this a few times the last year, but I told somebody late last year, I said, man, and this is, height of the hard market. Things have softened up here a little bit on the coast because a lot of our coastal carriers started doing some of the things that I see other agents complaining about, whether it be inspections or being really picky on risk. They started doing that 2 years ago. So a lot of our regionals are in really good shape reinsurance wise, and some of them have even gotten decreases. But I told somebody, I said, other than carriers just flat out not writing business, I actually prefer this climate. Because, we started Portal was 2019. It was at the height of a soft market. And we would compete on an account, whether it was personal or commercial, and we'd be competing against 20 agencies. Now it's 3. And a lot of our competition has had to step back and play defense, and they're not focusing on new business as much. And not to mention, one of the only industries in the world, when things are bad, premiums are up, everybody makes more money. So in a way, short of all of our carriers just saying, hey, we're not writing business anymore, as long as I have something to sell, I actually prefer this because it weeds out all of the non-players.
Ryan,
Completely agree.
Stop right there, because what we're talking about is one of 5 reasons I hate Bradley Flowers so much. And I can say that because I'm sitting beside him right now.
I'm sorry.
So there's no opportunity for him to say, Scott talked behind my back. So one of the many reasons I hate you so much is you are in Mobile, and I was telling somebody this the other day. I said, you know what really pisses me off about Bradley? When one of his damn customers calls and says, I'm paying too much for insurance. If you don't get it down, I'm leaving. Okay, call one of the other 6 independent agents around here, and guess what? Y'all all have the same stuff.
Well, and we talked about it too a little bit with the acquisition we made in January, that we were sort of insulated because the market was so hard. Like, even if somebody wanted to leave, they really couldn't.
Well, and it's also why you stay on top of what carriers are in Alabama, like crazy ex-girlfriend. Like, you can call, Bradley will be up at 2 o'clock in the morning pouring over admitted care, who's coming, who's not, and you have to, because God forbid it spins around and one of your competitors gets something that's got the new shiny toy you don't have.
Well, when you
that could be
when you
catastrophic.
sell insurance in a cat region, picking up carriers is like buying stocks.
Exactly.
Buy low, sell high. If you wait, you risk either the ship sailing and they're not competitive anymore, or they've locked up appointments. Hey, we've appointed 20 people. A lot of my counterparts here locally take the stance of really kind of highbrow, like, we're going to keep our eye on Orion 180.
Yeah, they can come see us, but we're not going to call them.
You got to get while the getting's good.
Yeah.
You can't wait. And we are very much on top of who's coming next. Like, for example, Openly, Branch, Steadily, and one more that I can't remember. We were actually appointed with them in other states, and I got my license in those states to get those appointments. That way I would have it first when it came to Alabama.
Speaking of pulling the parking brake up.
Yeah.
Openly?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think, this is one of the things that I got the most pushback on when I've talked about what we did at Rogue, but I have zero loyalty to carriers. I think this idea, and that's not a knock on carriers. They have to do what they have to do, right? They got to make their money. They're gonna change. Their appetites are gonna change. I don't take that like hate on carriers for the way they act. They act the way they act because it's the way they're incentivized, and they have to run their business.
Is better for the customer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think what we do as agents, because I think we're in general, it tends to be just a loyal group of people, is we have a good experience with a carrier for 5 years and we lock in on them. And then when everything changes with them, which is naturally going to happen, we're like thrown for a loop. And it's like, if you don't care where the business is placed, just take all the appointments, take all of them, every appointment you can get, take them all. They're going to pound your door and they're going to give you crap, but most of the time, they're not going to drop you as long as you're occasionally putting business with them. And all I'd say to them is, when you guys swing back around, you're going to get all the business. And you just place the business where it needs to go, regardless of the carrier, as long as it hits your bar for quality and all that kind of stuff. And never lock in on one carrier too hard, because for their own reasons, they are inevitably going to change their appetite, their pricing, their underwriting guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. And when that happens, they are not going to consider you. They're not going to call you on the phone and go, hey, Scott, how do you feel if we like increase rates by 17%? What do you think about that number? They don't give, you're just going to get in an email. And look, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that from their perspective. I think we as agents, again, thinking back to being business owners, cannot get too hung up on being too loyal to any one carrier.
Well, you become a captive.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, not to toot our horn, but one thing we've done really well is we are pretty evenly dispersed amongst all of, say, our top 20. We've got about the same amount of, like, we've diversified it a lot because of that reason. And it being coastal, you know, one of our carriers can say, yep, we're done. We're done. You know, we're non-renewing everything. You know, we didn't get reinsurance or whatever. And all of a sudden you got to remarket that. That's a vulnerability. You know what I mean? But
hey, Bradley, you and Ryan, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. We're going to time it on these 4 or 5 topics.
Let's do lemonade first. Let's do lemonade first.
Don't worry. Yeah, that's
everybody
first.
loves me on Twitter.
Here we go.
Invested in lemonade.
Hanley's Hot Takes. I'm going to let Bradley and Ryan Hanley here lead the charge on discussing these 5 topics. I'll keep the timer, and then we'll move to the next. The first one. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Lemonade. Second quarter ends with a $57 million loss, which is better than last year's second quarter $67 million loss.
Lots of
Go
improvement.
ahead.
Well, another thing on here I want to point out is that their gross loss ratio for the quarter was 79%, which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But their combined ratio was 198%, which we know is the one that really, really matters, compared to 223 in Q2. So I'm sure Ryan's gonna have more to say on this. You know, these guys, these investors in Lemonade, always go at me on Twitter. And by the way, if any of you guys are listening to this, I like stoke the fire on purpose because I like the engagement. I don't actually hate you that much, but they're way more passionate about
100%.
the positive to Lemonade than I am the negative. And a few of them, we've actually invited 2 of them on to debate.
Like
on
1
the
for,
podcast.
1 against?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so far nobody's taken us up on it, which I think is super interesting. That, you know, and I'm being a little sarcastic there, like, why won't you come on and debate?
Sure.
One guy, Ryan will think this is funny. One guy was so hard on Lemonade, and I was like, man, why don't you come on and debate? And I was like, he was like, okay, this is like the day before we were podcasting.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the time. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, man, I can't come on that day. I've got class.
Ah!
Okay. I don't want
I
to
hope
like
college, not high school
I
classes.
don't know what it was. But anyway, here's my whole gripe with Lemonade, okay? It's not the anti-agent rhetoric because they're appointing agents now. It's not the focus on technology. I think some of their technology is pretty good. I think they're a little bit short-sighted when they think that their technology is that much better than traditional carriers or agencies. My whole gripe with Lemonade is the products you sell are not world-changing. Like, you're not like what a missed opportunity to build a product that actually helps consumers or actually helps the industry. If you're worried about that, we're going to sell pet insurance and renter's insurance and condo insurance.
Strong.
Like, and we're going to acquire Metro Mile, which is telematics insurance, which is that's a whole nother subject. But like, you don't have any products that move the needle. Like, if you could compare Lemonade's, the balls that Lemonade has with the technology that Lemonade has with a product that actually solves a problem, now you're really getting somewhere. That's my whole gripe in a nutshell. Is it's like my whole example of, oh, we're going to change the industry. What are you going to sell? We're going to sell renter's insurance in Ohio. Like, Lemonade is not really in any cat-prone areas. Not that cat-prone areas are the only opportunity. They're not anywhere. Like I respect, even though I don't like them, I respect Ken Insurance way more because at least Ken is selling insurance in Florida. They're actually at least selling a product in an area where consumers actually need another product.
Sure.
That's my gripe.
And Ryan, before you say anything,
I took all the time. I'm sorry.
No. Here's my short take. As an expert beach shark fisherman in the Gulf Coast, whose life has totally been changed over the last 2 days. And as I mentioned in our last podcast, my view on internet insurance has changed dramatically because now when you go to Lemonade online and purchase your insurance, it's one less person that can call me and scream and yell at me. So I encourage all of you to go buy your renter's insurance from Lemonade because I just don't care. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, my take is very similar to Bradley's. It's, this is a huge marketing engine. This is basically like JV Geico. That's really what it is. It's JV Geico.
That is the best thing I've heard all day long.
Yeah. Well, and we look at Geico. Geico, the most successful and probably only successful direct-to-consumer insurance carrier, is now going full bore into independent agents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the cost of acquisition on a D2C model in insurance is too high today still. No one has cracked that code. And the investors look at the technology and the branding and they go, eventually this is going to hit escape velocity. And the problem is, as you said, there's nothing behind it from a product perspective that differentiates it. They're using the same basic forms. They're selling very generic, very run-of-the-mill products. And you have companies that have been doing this for 100+ years that are so much deeper entrenched in the market, that understand the underwriting incredibly well. Their loss ratio is fine at 79. I mean, that's a decent loss ratio, but they also are primarily renters insurance and pet insurance book, which traditionally have the two lowest loss ratios in the industry. Right. So you look at that and, frankly, I had a good friend who ran a renters insurance only agency and he did pretty well. His loss ratio was consistently in the low 40s. So I think the marketing is good. I think the technology is fine, although I don't care what product you're selling. I think people still eventually need to be able to access a human. And I think the product is meh. So to me, all the investors on Twitter, and I see them and I love them when they come after you it's so much fun to watch your Twitter when you talk about Lemonade. But I think they are unfortunately having that response because they have buyer's remorse for falling into the classic trap, which is meh product, good marketing, and a little bit of fancy tech, which everyone is caught up to, by the way. The AI piece of this, you can talk to a chatbot thing. There's a million companies that can do basic language-based responses via chatbot. So there's nothing special about the tech anymore either. So really you have good marketing, which I'll say they're very good marketing with tech that's now kind of run of the mill with a product that's less than average. So that's why I think JV Geico is probably the most appropriate response.
The two best things are someone trying to tell me that Lemonade had more data than traditional insurance carriers. And I'm like, so you're telling me a 9-year-old company has more data than a 100-year-old company?
Yeah,
even if the 100-year-old company was doing a bad job, and I'm not saying they were doing a good job, they're going to have more data. And then the second thing was trying to argue that I didn't understand the economics of an early stage company. I'm like, bro, a 9-year-old company that's publicly traded is not early stage.
Yeah.
When you are publicly traded, it's time to make money. You're not in the startup phase where you can.
Isn't that the reason I know that some public companies will lose money early, but that has to change quick. I mean, you're getting evaluated on a quarter-to-quarter basis.
Publicly traded 3 years. And by the way, I've got friends that work at Lemonade. I've got people I'm very, very friendly with that work there. But what you said too, the buyer's remorse thing, it's like the arguments in insurance Facebook groups for which AMS is better. The majority of the people in there arguing are just trying to justify their decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like they're pot committed to Lemonade or they're pot committed to Applied Epic. And it's like, I'm really trying to convince myself that I made a good decision.
Right.
Is what it is. And what's funny about those exchanges on my Twitter is the best argument to be in online is when the party that's arguing against you takes it way more serious than you do. It's like, I'm just trying to get engagement by sharing my opinion. You're over here fighting for your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd like, so from the release about this particular story, Lemonade made a special point of focusing on the fact that reducing cat-related volatility is a major focus. Now, put your insurance hat on for a second. Think about a 79% loss ratio and 198% combined ratio. Where's the problem? Is it in loss? Is it in cat loss? If you have a 79% loss ratio, is the major win getting your loss ratio down there? Or is it figuring out what's between the 198 and the 79 that's causing you to have such a high combined, right? And then if you dig in further, just a couple bullets that I thought were interesting. One of the points they pulled out was continuing to sell Lemonade homeowners policies only where its AI-powered LTV models predict attractive unit economics, which means now they're taking a sub-average product and just trying to cherry pick the same cream that everybody else wants, right? There's no differentiator there. Second, placing home premium with other carriers in select geographies. So what that says is their product can't even service all their customers. So now they're doing what all the other major carriers do, which is on D2C business. If they don't want the cream, they just place it with someone else. That's not a winning strategy. Not again, for a publicly traded carrier to put in their release that how they're going to turn their business around is placing business with other carriers would be very scary to me. And then finally, they've begun non-renewing certain cat-exposed homeowners policies that the company would not underwrite today. It's like, okay, so basically you want to be in prime markets with prime customers with average products that are almost indiscernible from other products, which are actually better oftentimes, have more, additional features. I believe that they will continue to narrow the gap, but any kind of like major turnaround in the next few years with the strategy that they've outlined here, if I were an investor, I'd be scared to death because to me, there's nothing here that says these guys understand how to get that combined ratio down. And that's the number. I mean, hey, getting from 223% to 198, that's great. 198 is still a death stroke. So
right. All right.
That's my take there.
Here's the next one. Came out of New York City, press release, July the 17th. 2024. In a groundbreaking move, 5 Sigma, an AI native claims management software company, unveiled Clive, the insurance industry's first AI-powered insurance adjustment agent designed to transform the claims processing landscape. Clive's revolutionary capabilities leverage the power of artificial intelligence and automation to redefine how claims are handled by insurers, MGAs, and TPAs, setting benchmarks in efficiency, accuracy, and cost reduction. Who wants to go first?
I'll let Ryan go first.
I mean, this makes complete sense to me. AI is going to eat every highly repeatable process that exists in every industry, not just ours. And claims is one, especially, if you can take a phone and do a 180 degree of a car accident, there's no reason that an AI can't, in a very short amount of time, understand exactly what needs to be fixed, if it can be fixed, what the replacement costs of those parts are going to be, and issue a check. Like this is coming for everything, guys. This is not just claims. Like,
right.
I'm working for a AI startup right now that's doing very similar things, but in the new business process. And this is going to be everything that's highly repeatable and easy for a machine to understand. So I think this is cool. I think it's interesting. It'll be, I think I'll have interest in companies that pick it up, but this could be revolutionary today. And in 2 years from now, this is just like a meh, of course.
Sure.
Right. I see this as the natural evolution of AI. It's going to eat all these repeatable processes and every aspect of our business.
So, Ryan, it does say on 2 or 3 different occasions in this article, which is fairly lengthy, that, and I'll just read this, but it's basically saying this technology is not necessarily meant to replace human beings, but to do those automated and repetitive tasks. As an AI-powered insurance adjustment agent, Clive excels in orchestrating and automating tasks, you just said that, traditionally done manually by human adjusters across lines of business and tailored to specifics of the organizational standard operating procedure, SOP. The capabilities span the entire claim life cycle from initial loss notification through settlement. Clive streamlines claims operations, blah, blah, blah.
If they can make it better than the current TPA stuff.
Well, but throughout this, it talks about how this is going to assist claims adjusters.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like ultimately, this is probably eventually going to reach the point to where it starts replacing
So,
adjusters.
listen, everyone who's listening at home, every AI company today, for the most part, is going to tell you this is meant for human enhancement, which it 100% is.
Correct.
None of the technology that I see coming out is primarily focused, is in any way focused on replacing humans, because one, we know we still need them in the process. Right. So that's the way it is. That's the way it should be, right? So I don't think this will replace claims adjusters today, but I do think it, instead of being able to see 10 cars a day, they can see 30 or 40 or 50, whatever. Okay. Mm-hmm. That being said, I mean, it doesn't take, a
rocket scientist,
magic hat or whatever to see into the future to understand that eventually they're going to start building in features where you don't need as many people, and they only send a human to the big ones or the ones that are complex or whatever. Because, guys, these are repeatable tasks. Like, I'm not, that doesn't mean doom and gloom. It doesn't mean that those claims adjusters won't have needs in other places of the business, right? Mm-hmm. There's going to be QA involved. There's going to be all kinds of things that humans still have to do. But AI is going to eat into every repeatable task that we have in our lives, in our businesses, and in the businesses that we work with. AI is going to eat away the repetitive tasks in every single one.
Well, anytime something happens, whether it's a technology or an event that shows a company that they don't need as many people as they thought they did, you're going to start seeing cuts. Like we saw it after COVID, because all of a sudden carrier reps couldn't come into your office and production went up. And companies started realizing, like, wait a minute, yeah, we may still need marketing reps, but we definitely don't need as many. They can cover, and they're
still whittling away at them.
They are. I mean, I've seen it on the captive side where, my old boss at the captive company I worked for covers an area that's probably 3 times the size of what it was while I was there. Like
went from North Alabama to Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi.
We have way more marketing rep meetings on Zoom and Teams and WebEx, unfortunately, now, because it's like, hey, we can hire this person in Atlanta and they cover the entire Southeast. And I think you're going to start seeing that with underwriting and adjusters. It's like, hey, we can, this tool can help our people be more efficient. And it kind of goes back to the cliche thing of like, AI is not going to replace anybody's job unless you are refusing to use AI, then it's going to take your job.
Yeah.
Yeah. The IBM quote that I keep coming back to is AI is not going to replace people. People that use AI are going to replace people. Yeah. And to me, I can't hammer this enough. And I've been blessed to work with this company that I'm working with now for 9 months. So I've like gotten like a matrix style download on AI. I don't understand it all the way to its details, but I'm getting a very good feel for the undercurrent of what this is. This is the internet, right? Except it's going to happen 10 times faster because we have the internet today to deploy it, right? So part of the issue for people who want to look at this and say, well, the internet took 15 years to take hold. Yes, because we didn't have the infrastructure.
Right.
We have the infrastructure today. The difference between AI and the initial internet is that when the internet first happened, we were still on phone lines, right? You had dial-up. There wasn't an infrastructure in place yet to get the technology out to the people. The technology was there, but there was no infrastructure. Today, as fast as they can deploy AI algorithms, they can distribute those algorithms to the entire world in real time. And that makes the adoption of these things so much easier. Additionally, you have an entire generation of technologists who lived through the first .com, who lived through all these different waves of the internet and waves of technology, who now have multiple case studies to pull off of in the development of this and the deployment of it. So it's much more sophisticated in the way it's done. So, I in no way is this doom and gloom. This is nothing but a boon. Guys, the $10 trillion or whatever, $100 trillion in debt that we have in the US right now, the only way out of that is through increased production using tools like AI. That's the only way out. We're not producing our way out of this debt crisis that we have through human sweat and labor. It has to be enhanced by this type of technology. So to me, this is a let's embrace and go, not a, oh my God, we need to batten down the hatches. This is pick, you know, you got to be smart and all that. I'm not saying, you know, just jump on the first tool that calls you, but this is a wave that you want to get on as early as possible and start getting your feelers on, start getting a little understanding, start talking to people, build a network, join a Facebook group that talks about it, whatever, you know, get involved in your technology counselor, call someone you know who's a nerd, right? And really start to dive in, because this isn't going anywhere and it's a game changer. There's no way around that.
I told somebody last week, Jason Kilgo actually asked me, he's like, man, what do I need to be doing AI wise? Like, what tool do I need to be using? And I said, man, at the very minimum, you at least need to be paying attention, because the people who are not paying attention to it are the ones that are going to get hurt the worst.
Yeah.
And the same goes
100%.
for InsurTech, by the way. Like, you can be anti-InsurTech, but you at least need to pay attention to what's going on, because when you do see an opportunity, that's when you can jump on it. And you also need to be paying attention to other industries. Like, look at other industries that are more advanced than the insurance industry and see what's happening there, see what they're doing there. And you can see how that mirrors the insurance industry. The beautiful thing is we are slow to adopt. So you can actually be a late adopter with stuff in terms of the world, but you're early for us.
Hey, Ryan.
Bradley, you and I have had this conversation in person. Both of the quote unquote, and I don't mean this like genius of our marketing abilities is literally what you just said, right? Like, everything that I did in insurance from a marketing perspective, everything that I do today in insurance from a marketing perspective, I look at what other industries, finance, life insurance, and investments, what are other service-based industries doing today to market their businesses, to grow their businesses, customer service, et cetera? What are they doing? And how do I start to take the best and most applicable pieces of that and apply it to my business here in insurance? And you will always be ahead of the game.
And everybody's
always.
like, you're so clairvoyant, Ryan. How are you so smart?
Steal.
What's like,
it's literally just steal.
I stood on a stage in front of 400 agency owners in Alabama, given the opening keynote, and asked who here is using a CRM other than their agency management system. That's not their agency management system. Do you know how many hands went up?
10%.
0.
Oh boy.
And I got off stage and I looked at our director of sales who was in the crowd, and I said, we are going to kick their ass so much.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not at the point where, and I'm not saying that we won't lose cases to some of those people, but like, if you're at the point where you're not even using some sort of sales-based CRM to help your producers, like, you're already so far behind.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, can I say a very unpopular opinion that I think you'll agree with me on?
Always.
So AI is the hot button new word in the insurance industry everybody's talking about. And we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, because of the three of us having the relationships that we do in the industry, that blue blood carriers and other, regional carriers even are pouring millions, if not billions of dollars into this AI wave, if you will. Would you agree or disagree with my assessment that the first wave, which in my opinion is going to happen within the next 6 months, but no later than a year, of replacements coming from, and I have affectionately on Twitter nicknamed this our new Roomba underwriters, because remember, Roomba was made so that, you didn't have to vacuum your floor. Roomba would do it for you. The next wave and the first wave, way before adjusters, okay, will come from the underwriting channel that is being replaced by our new, air quotes, Roomba adjusters, AI adjusters, because more, when you have a claim, that's an emotional experience. You want to speak to a human being to explain to you why this claim was or was not paid and all the facets of that. I can see, and I think you'll agree with me, that this first AI implosion in terms of carriers extracting some of their operational cost out to improve profitability actually coming from the underwriting side.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the underwriting side's a no-brainer. I mean, they basically do it today with a series of tumbler systems. They're just using, when you go into any standard national carrier and quote something, that's their underwriting process. And they're just using check boxes. Yes, no, we'll accept this. Here's a pricing table. I mean, it's just analog today, right? And all AI gives them the ability to do in that same process is to move on the fly. So the thing that we all get frustrated with in the standard quoting process, right, is like, I have this account, except there's this one schmoogie that doesn't fit. And now I got to send it to underwriting and wait for 3 days to get a response back. Well, all that underwriter is doing 95% of the time is checking a logbook and going yes or no. It's not like they're going, Scott Howell submitted this one to me, so that means it's probably good. No one's doing that. Now, granted, all the middle market people are going, I got a great relationship. I'm not talking about complex, multi-policy, multi-line, multi-level middle market accounts, right? I'm talking about your standard personal, standard small business accounts. That to me is a no-brainer. Now, here's what I think is going to happen if I'm talking about your waves concept. They're all going to F this up on the first wave because I know most of them are building these off of large language models like Gemini, Claude, OpenAI, etc. And that's going to be a huge miss because the security related issues to data privacy and data security in those large language models is insane. So I think a lot of them are going to go down this path. And when they get to the regulatory piece, they're gonna be stopped. The answer to that is a private, secure model that creates the data and data security and data privacy necessary for our industry to function.
Right.
And that's I don't know how self-aggrandizing I can be here, but again, that's one of the reasons why the company that I'm working with here, I kind of canceled all my other consulting contracts because this company is doing just that. And it's a much harder lift, right? There's a lot more moving pieces to build in the privacy and security piece. But if you're using a tool for anything other than language, marketing language, emails, website copy, video scripts, if you are using a large language model, Claude, OpenAI, Perplexity, Gemini, Llama, if you're using a tool that uses one of those, understand that if you're putting anything private in there, there is
it's now public.
A greater than zero chance that information can be ripped, pulled, somehow used, somehow surfaced in a different way, whether intentional or unintentional.
Yeah, almost like, and in my mind, almost like a template, like at a base level, like, hey, Gemini, I'm looking for a marketing blah blah blah, and all of a sudden, some bitch pulls up Bradley Flowers. Sales and marketing list plan, plan or whatever, and it's like, wait a minute, I didn't mean for that to.
Yes, so, that's exactly it. Go to that. And guys, this happens all the time. I mean, just if you follow any AI newsletter or whatever, this stuff is happening constantly to companies. This is not like something this is a huge problem. Is when it was all fun and we were creating funny pictures and Elon Musk as Superman and whatever, that's all fun and great and no problem. But the minute we get to proprietary, private, secure, those models fall apart today, and we have to be very, very, very careful with what we put in them. Now, I use them constantly, right? I wanted to write an advertorial today for a magazine ad that we're doing for this company. So I went into Perplexity, put in this whole prompt. It gives me the framework. I take the framework out. I get some good ideas. I put in another prompt, get some more ideas. Then I write it out myself using those as guides, as basically guidebook for different points, right? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't written too many advertorials in my life. So I first researched what's a good advertorial look like, right? And it sends me some examples. But that's the perfect use case for these large language models. They're the best at that.
I had an attorney. My attorney had to send a letter for me this week. And I went into ChatGPT and said, you're an attorney. Your name is this. Write a letter to this person for this. It wrote it. And then I send it to the attorney to review, proofread, and send out. And he charges me less than I would if he wrote it from scratch, which, by the way, all he's probably going to do is do the same thing.
Yes. And understand where that information came from was some attorney's website, some
Right.
attorney's copy,
Right.
some attorney's form that got posted in a Reddit forum.
Yep.
Like they're getting that language from somewhere.
Right.
That's someone's proprietary work that they are then repurposing for you to use. So just keep that in mind when you're using these
Go
tools.
to the CrowdStrike article before we.
So CrowdStrike, or do y'all want to do CrowdStrike or the politically charged climate and what role insurance plays?
We'll let Ryan choose.
Ryan, which one you want to do?
Let's the CrowdStrike thing I think is interesting, but I think we're coming into election season.
Okay.
I think the politically charged climate and how we handle that. And this is really the reason I put this in here was I was really interested in your guys' take. Both, I think there's two questions that we can. This is an Insurance Journal article, by the way. It's titled "What Role Does Insurance Play in a Politically Charged Climate?"
Yep.
Bunch of good ideas. It's interesting. I'm interested in two things. How do we handle this from a leadership perspective in our agency, right? I know the insurance industry skews conservative, and thank God, but we all have people with different opinions on a whole bunch of topics, right? You could be as conservative gets and be pro-choice or whatever, right? Like it, and none of that is wrong, just different. So how do we handle it internally? And then what are we doing for our clients to make sure if these politically charged things happen, they're properly protected? Because there is a substrata of specifically liability coverages that address some of these things.
Right.
And, if you're struggling to write policies, this could be a good place to pick up some business.
Absolutely. So
yeah.
The article is basically talking about just to kind of give them just a brief summary here, the incident that occurred, and most people probably did not think about this. There is some agency in the United States of America, I don't know who it is, or maybe I do, that had this event insured the Donald Trump political event insured where the shooter, I believe, killed one person in the grandstand, injured two others, and obviously shot former President Trump. Now,
you mean when the CIA ran a psyop to kill the president
correct.
Because the military-industrial complex doesn't want him to become our leader?
Correct. So the first thing I'm going to say about this is just an overarching, while you two kind of get your thoughts together. One thing I'm going to say to our listening audience, I don't care whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever you may be. In the United States of America, whether it is Donald Trump, Joseph Biden, Kamala Harris, any of our leaders that represent the United States of America, this cannot happen. And the reason this cannot happen is it gives the rest of the world, especially, it seems like the Middle East, it gives their leadership in other countries and people who don't like us the thought that, well, if some kid can climb up on a building and nearly kill the former president of the U.S., what can our bunch do? Let's go try it ourselves. So this cannot happen no matter what your political affiliation is. This cannot happen. Beyond that, I will say that from a client standpoint, if you're doing some type of event insurance for really anything, I'm not 1,000% sure because remember, guys, it's been a minute, but there was a stretch of time for about 2 or 3 years. We had, 80 people killed in a bar, and the next day it seemed like there was a school shooting, and the next day it was a pumpkin patch fest. It was one right after another. Some of that has kind of cooled down now, but I think it's important to remember to have enough liability coverage for something like that, because you better believe if your event policy that you're doing for your client and they're doing hay rides or
it talks about that in the article, terrorism insurance.
Domestic terrorism type thing. Buddy, don't say, I never get wet on these rides. It won't happen to me, because it very well could. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah. So my thoughts here are, let's take external first, right? So if I were still running Rogue right now, what I would be doing is creating materials around EPLI, media liability insurance, right? So media liability insurance being, you say something stupid. What if one of your employees is having a bad day and decides to put a, Trump sucks post up, which offends a bunch of your customers? Maybe, whatever. Maybe they indict, maybe they go after one of your customers or clients or someone who left because they're pissed because they yelled at them, right? So media liability, a lot of heightened sensitivities, media liability, EPLI. What if someone in your business does something else to somebody else, right? Like, what's your culture look like? Like, these are really interesting and deep touch points.
Yes.
And those are just two, right? That you could reach out to your customer base. If, again, we're talking about hard market, people are struggling, a lot of pain. We're trying to write policies. Maybe a standard BOP comes with what, 15,000 in media liability coverage on it. Like, reach out to them and say, hey, I see you do a ton of marketing.
Right.
Maybe we need to bump that up to $500,000 or $1 million or something, right? Or you don't have an EPLI policy, or you have this really small supplement on your BOP, et cetera. Like, these are additional policies, especially it's not just a sales tactic. Like, if we're really trying to do what's right by our customers, understanding the climate that we're in and that this is highly charged, both sides, right? And we don't know what's going to happen. And, just think about what our world would look like and what we could all be dealing with as insurance agents if Trump did get assassinated, right? If that CIA sniper up on the thing really takes his head off, right? Because I believe that all of this is because of the deep state, not because some 20-year-old somehow wove his way through a Secret Service detail. That's just me.
No, I understand.
Tinfoil hat off. But let's say he does die. What is going on in our country today? How many of us are dealing with rioting, are dealing with all kinds of different things that are happening? And I think it is both an opportunity to grow, all right? The opportunity to put premium on the books from a self-serving perspective, but also from a doing our job perspective to reach out and just say, hey, here's 5 coverages in the current environment I think you should consider. If you want any of these, let me know, right? And do a declination form style, right? Hey, have them tell you specifically, I don't want this coverage, because I'll tell you what, if I'm an ambulance chasing attorney and something shitty happens and some business owner comes to me or person comes to me and says, hey, my agent never offered me, whatever coverage, that the problem is, now, even if you're not at fault specifically, you're going to have to deal with the lawsuit, and declination forms shut lawsuits down really fast.
Right. Bradley, would you like to add?
I'm good.
Ryan Hanley, it's been a pleasure. I think, Johnny, you can cut this part out for just a second. I'd like us to do one more podcast tomorrow, so we have 2 in the hopper, because I think we were going to try to do one.
Do you have any time tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow.
I do.
At all. And then we'll go back. Johnny, here in just a second, we'll go back and I'll close this out here. I'm sorry to mess you up there, but
I can do 12 your time, Ryan. That's the only slot we have open.
Well, actually,
I can do 12 too.
I'm staying here tomorrow, so we could do later if we needed to. But yeah, 12's good.
All right.
12
guys.
would work perfect.
Ryan Hanley, thank you for joining us today. I look forward to our next episode of Hanley's Hot Takes. Guys, before I end this show today, I'm going to say one thing to all of our listeners out there, okay? Not a political rant at all, but this is my wheelhouse. 4 years, 2 years in anti-terrorism in London, England, with security forces, 2 years in the Marine Corps fleet. I'm going to say this, guys, about this shooting that occurred at a former President Trump political rally. If you get into a situation, and it doesn't matter whether you're walking into a Starbucks, whether you're taking your kid to school and something happens, if you get into an active shooter situation, it is incumbent upon you, and I'm sorry to have to say what I'm about to say because the results of this may not go in your favor, but you have to, as quickly as you possibly can, go grab whatever you have. Hopefully you have it on you. A lot of times I'll wear a Glock 42 in a ankle holster, especially if I'm out in public. I'll wear jeans and I'll wear a Glock 42. You have to engage as quickly as you possibly can with that shooter. If you go back and you look at the social media footage of the FBI sniper, he shoots that guy probably keeps him from killing another 5, 10, 20, 30 people within milliseconds of the first round going off. He identifies target, rounds down range, he nullifies the target. You've got to, as quickly as you can, get to whatever vehicle you can. If you don't have a weapon on you, pull it out and find concealment somewhere and start firing down range. Because the quicker, I'm going to say it again, the quicker anybody, doesn't matter who, engages that target that is shooting kids or pedestrians or whatever, the quicker it ends. And it also, psychologically, the person that is doing that, when they hear rounds coming towards them, their mind clicks over and out of the gear that it's in. Meaning, they've got this mindset when they walk into a school, okay? But when rounds start coming towards them, that mindset automatically clicks and they go, oh, shit, somebody's shooting at me. That is the fastest and most, I guess, best way to start the process of ending that is, in order for them to stop killing innocent people, you got to go grab whatever you have out of that car, out of that truck, out of that minivan, and you got to put rounds down range at them to switch that mindset that they're in. And the faster you can do that, the more lives you're going to save. That sniper, that FBI or CIA sniper, there is no telling how many people's lives he saved that day, because that dude was about to keep firing into that grandstand and killing people after, he did what he did and shot, the former president's ear and some other people. But anyway, I hate to end on such a, I don't know.
Well, here, I'll lift it up for you, Scott.
There, I think the message, what you have to do.
I think the message here is, guys, that we as a society, I believe, have moved away from our contribution to the greater ecosystem. And I'm hoping that the current tumult, what happened to Trump, hopefully doesn't happen to anybody else, right? I certainly, as much as I don't necessarily agree with a lot of people on the other side, I certainly in no way want any of them to be physically harmed in any way, nor do I advocate for it. And I think it all comes back to just be engaged in your community. You know what I mean? Be engaged. We need to start thinking about, in general, think about your insurance community. How do you support your insurance community? How do you support your community you live in? How do you support your family? How do you support this country as a whole? What's your contribution to the country, right? I think we've unfortunately, and a lot of this is social media and just fast moving times, et cetera. Our in general have flipped to a what's in it for me. And unfortunately, the only way out of, I think, the turmoil that we're in is a switch to how do I contribute to the greater good? And and I think that that's a wholly positive thing. I think it comes from God. I think it's filled with love. And I think we all have it in us to contribute in some way, whatever way we can. Absolutely. And that small mind shift, I think, would change so much of the negative discourse that we have in our society today.
I love it. All right. Ron, thank you for being here. Guys,
appreciate you guys. Love you.
As I end every episode, rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk today. Stop running TPS reports and go become the mayor of the town, village, or city that you live in. Here's what I want for every single agent at the sound of my voice. When every single person in your community thinks about insurance, I want them to say, you know who I need to call? Hey, wife, hey, husband, who's that guy that runs Portal Insurance over there that we met the other night? The insurance guy, the insurance girl. Oh, we need to call them. We need some homeowners insurance. That ruggedly handsome 6'3" guy from Mobile. What's his name? That's my hope and my wish for each and every one of you. Go make money for your family, for your wife, for your husband, for your kids' college fund, and for your parents and in-laws that are struggling out there today. Go make money for them. Write good business for the agencies that you represent, and write good business for the companies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, Ryan Hanley,
Thanks,
we love you. Guys, you were listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being a part of our family, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care.